With that, I want to acknowledge the technical personnel who are here from the museum and also doing the audio recordings. Let's give them a round of applause. We have producers in the wings who are doing mic transitions. It's been a lot of work, so for your patience and understanding about how to make this happen, thank you. So we are at the home stretch. This session is really about how do we establish access within our communities, and we have three amazing speakers who are going to round us out. The first speaker is to speak about her experience of bringing access inside the court. This is State Justice of Massachusetts, Shannon Frison.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I became a judge in 2009. I was 39 years old, and I was appointed to the Boston Municipal Court. My first day at work, the chief sat me down. The chief of the court at that time was a black man. His name is Charles Johnson. He sat me down, he said, "Judge Frison, I know you've been practicing law a long time in Massachusetts. You know a lot of judges. You might even like some of them and how they do business. But he said, you cannot emulate a single judge that you know. He said, you cannot do the Charles Johnson, you cannot do the Pamela Deschelle, you gotta do the Shannon Frison." I didn't really know what he meant by that, but I knew I should remember it. I didn't know that at the time he was telling me not to conform in a way that's so almost inevitable on this job. But now I know why. In 2020, the judges of Massachusetts learned that as a whole, we impose higher cash bail on black and brown defendants, and we impose longer prison sentences on black and brown defendants. And as a defendant in Massachusetts, if you're a black or Latinx, you're more likely to have your case resolved in the Superior Court, where I sit, where the sentence range that's available is much longer, up to life. And the reason for that is that those defendants are more likely to have charges for which the Superior Court has final jurisdiction. And when the prosecutors have discretion, they're more likely to bring those cases for black and brown defendants in the Superior Court. Also, as a black or Latinx defendant, if you are facing weapons or drug charges, you are more likely to go to prison and more likely to go to prison for a longer time. As a black or Latinx defendant facing charges for which there are minimum mandatory sentences, you are again more likely to go to prison and more likely to go to prison for a longer period of time. These are the statistics, current statistics. This did not happen in 1820. It didn't happen in some part of the world that you might consider unenlightened. This is happening in Massachusetts on my court. So I'm pretty fired up about it. Now, I'm not a statistician. I'm not a social scientist. I'm not any kind of scorekeeper. I'm a judge, and this is happening in my court. Would you believe that today, the black and brown people of Massachusetts do not have consistent access to justice? And our bias is uniform. It's a uniform bias against black skin, against dark people. A uniform bias, a conformity of thought and a conformity of the subconscious. George Floyd was murdered in 9 minutes. We watched those agonizing 9 minutes, heartbreaking 9 minutes over and over and over due to our captive audience, thank you to the pandemic. You see, bias doesn't just send you to jail, it can also kill you. In his death is the first time in my life that this country has had an actual reckoning around race relations in this country. And I'm 52 years old. I've been a judge for 13 years. I've been a lawyer for 27 years, and I've been a United States Marine for 28 years. I grew up in Chicago. I went to Hyde Park Career Academy, and I was a valedictorian. From there, I went to Harvard. I got my bachelor's in government, and I went straight to law school at Georgetown University Law Center. While in law school, I joined the Marine Corps and became a Marine Corps officer, a judge advocate, to be specific. I've served in North Carolina, Okinawa, Japan, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, Quantico, Virginia. I left active duty and joined a litigation firm and did criminal defense. After about 7 years, I opened my own shop and practiced as a solo practitioner in Boston. Within 2 years of doing that, I came on the bench. I've been appointed to 2 courts, the Boston Municipal Court and the Superior Court of Massachusetts, where I now sit. And still, I've been at least twice accused of being a gang member. The first time I was in Okinawa, Japan, in my civilian capacity as a lawyer, representing a sailor who was accused of conspiracy to murder. I went over there, we went to a general court-martial. The first day of the trial, it was myself, my client, the prosecutor, the military judge, and the jury. This jury was mostly, if not all white, and all male. The senior member of that jury was a full-bird colonel. The only question he had in that whole hearing was whether or not my tattoo was gang-related. Now, this is after I had been introduced as the lawyer for the defendant. This is after my qualifications have been stated, because you have to state them in military court. And this is, at that stage, I was just 2 ranks below that gentleman as a Marine. Well, the judge put him out, kicked him off the jury, substituted another juror for the senior member. And after the day was done, the judge, the prosecutor, and I, we had a good old knee-slapping laugh about what had happened. I laughed with them, but it really wasn't funny to me. It was mortifying. I'd flown 8,000 miles to represent this sailor in what was probably the most significant incident in her life. Well, I went on to beat that charge, and that sailor did not serve 1 day in the brig, which was my goal. The next time I was accused of being a gang member, it just happened, just a couple years ago. I was already a judge. I took a photo in my lobby, a selfie. You take a lot of selfies these days. If you're old enough, you'll remember a group called KISS. And they used to do the I love you sign in American Sign Language. They stick their tongue out. They became known for it. I think they tried to trademark it. I took a photo like that, I posted online and said something like, "You can't always be so serious." Well, someone took a screenshot of that photo, sent it to the chief of my court, and said, "Judge Frison is throwing up gang signs on Instagram." So, on one day, one cold, snowy day, so many of them in Massachusetts, sitting in the Lawrence Superior Court, preparing for my afternoon motion session, my chief gave me a call and asked me what it was. And she was older than me. I considered that to be something from her era. So I was surprised she didn't know. But I took that opportunity to talk about implicit bias and why someone would think that at about 11 years on the bench, all of a sudden I'm a gang member. After a while, I sent some emails. We had some email exchanges where we talked about bias. That's how I handled those situations. But I haven't always been that direct and that outspoken and this queer and this black. Well, I've always been this black. Forget that part. But at different stages, my own access has been what I would consider tenuous at best. Rewind back to 1994. I was 24 years old. I was joining the Marine Corps. And I was in law school. I went to the officer selection office in Hyattsville, Maryland. The black gunnery sergeant there said, "Shannon, if you are serious about the Judge Advocate program, you need to do something with your hair. What was wrong with my hair? Well, I had started dreadlocks. I had little baby dreads starting on my hair. Those were not allowed. Neither were braids. So I cut my hair. After that, I had to be physically qualified to go on to active duty. So I went down to the MEPS station in Boston for my physical exam. When I was there, the doctor examining me said, "Have you ever had a problem with homosexuality?" Well, I didn't have any problem with it. So I answered no. I don't think that's what he meant though. But I did not challenge him any further. A couple years later, I got to the basic school, the Marine Corps Basic School. My platoon commander, a white man, probably just a couple years older than me. In my first evaluation, he said, "When I first saw you, I asked myself, who is this person posing as a Marine?" It has not always been the case that I was able to challenge those threats to my access. I am challenging you to challenge conformity. Not for personal reasons, not because you want to wear your hair a certain way or you want to get tattoos, but for altruistic reasons, for all of the rest of us. The man I told you about earlier, Charles Johnson, chief of the Boston Municipal Court, he also spoke at my swearing in. And he said to the audience, "Time will be the judge of Justice Frison's service to the Commonwealth." And it will be. Thank you for listening.
Wow.